on the Foley stage, we invent thousands of new sounds together as a team. What inspired me to get into the industry, I believe, was when I first saw the dark crystal, and I was getting my tonsils out in the hospital and eating ice cream afterwards, and they turned on the TV and there was the dark crystal, and it just was a world that was created from scratch with tactile materials and creatures that I'd never seen before that represented things that I could connect with in life, and the journey of the hero. So I think that one really stands out to me as a kid, that fantasy picture. And then also the NeverEnding Story was another one when I was really little, where I was like, wow, I want to ride a luck dragon and and go on an adventure and ride a horse through a swamp and make it through with the horse too, because they don't make it. So just that inspired me in a way that allowed freedom for my imagination to just fly, and it gave me permission to normalize my imagination, which was, I thought, what abnormal.
Mhm.
So I think that's what first inspired me. And then I watched a lot of TV as a kid. So I think both Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, The Muppets, and Tom and Jerry, and Laurel and Hardy, and Abbott and Costello. I mean, the mishmash of all that, the physical comedy, the musical notes that followed the actions of Tom and Jerry, the warmth and sweetness and fun of the Muppets, um, all of that really informed what I wanted to do. It informed me in deciding what I want to do for the rest of my life, other than being a veterinarian like I thought I was going to be.
So when you were watching those, were there elements of it that you found more fascinating? Was it like the production design? Was it the writing? Was it the acting? Or was it sound already, like in the very beginning?
Okay, so the physicality of Abbott and Costello and Laurel and Hardy really got me excited about moving my body and being funny. I was the class clown when I was a kid, so that inspired me in that way. And then the musicality of Tom and Jerry. My mom was a barbershop quartet lead, so they would rehearse in the house, and I heard them and listened to them while I would draw, and it was just comforting to hear them, the warmth of the bass, and then my mom's, firm lead voice, and the three others supporting her. It was just such a beautiful tapestry to listen to as I'm drawing. That also got me into drawing. Watching Tom and Jerry got me into drawing animation. And so um, the musicality of Tom and Jerry reminded me of all the tones that I would hear while listening to my mom and her barbershop quartet while I drew. So it made sense to me to follow that path in a way. I never thought, oh, I'll go into sound ever,
Hmm.
or I'll go into music. But if I think back to that time when I was a kid and what the treasures that stayed with you your whole life, those are some of them, the memories of that uh, joy of capturing that joy with music, or the comedy with Laurel and Hardy, or the warmth and camaraderie of the Muppets. You could feel the production behind things like the Muppets, where everyone trusted each other and were able to play. You could just feel it. So all of that combined stuck with me.
And when you got to like the end of high school, and I'm assuming, I don't know actually if you went to college, but if you did, like did you know you wanted to go into film? Was that something you were looking at colleges for?
Mhm.
What was that journey like?
So I continued drawing and became pretty skilled at it. and I would get a lot of attention from drawing. I got some scholarship money and awards, and people would come up to me and say, "Oh, wow, that's great." So I kept doing it. It was encouraging. And when my mom said, "I want you to go to college," because I never got to go to college,
Mm.
then I thought, okay, I have to pick a major. And I remember looking at the list of majors and thinking, okay, I draw, film, animation. Oh, okay, maybe I'll try film. So I applied to several schools, got into them all, which was incredible. And the one I'm most proud of getting into was Rhode Island School of Design,
Yeah.
because you had to draw these 20 by 20 pencil drawings that were very specific. And when I got in, I was like, yes. So I was hoping to go there, but then my mom and I couldn't afford to pay the
Mm.
tuition.
Yeah.
So I chose the next best thing, which was Ithaca College, where I could take um, liberal arts courses as well as my film degree. So that was an awesome experience. And I didn't know what film was until I went to college and started, the intro class where they show you the Maltese Falcon, Citizen Kane, Hitchcock, the usual.
Yeah.
So that was my early experience of film school. But I have schooled myself later now that I love film. It took me a while to love film and really understand what it was that I loved about it. And so now I furthered my education by watching everything on the Criterion channel, pretty much.
Yeah. Also, side note, I also went to Ithaca College. That's crazy. Um,
What?
so this is wild.
No way. What did you go
Yeah.
for? I want to know about more about you. Enough about me.
I I went for, I don't even think it's a major anymore. It's television radio. I think it's
Yes.
now just like media something now
Right.
but like I went there specifically because they had an LA program, like the semester in LA,
Yes.
and I wasn't ready to like go all the way out to LA at that point. I would be too homesick. So I was like, let's dip my toe. And so that's so crazy, amazing.
Okay. So they were starting the LA program the semester before I went. Okay.
Oh
So it
my
was in
god.
1994. The 94 earthquake happened. It was like, oh my God, LA and the earthquake. Ah, you know, a lot of fear was brought back with the first round of kids that went to LA. And I did the LA program too.
Oh my god.
So
What?
stayed on Barham Boulevard,
Yep.
interned, and culture shock, major
Yeah.
culture shock. Okay.
It's very
Because
different than Ithaca.
it's different than Ithaca, and I grew up in a town even smaller than Ithaca. How about you? Where did you
I
grow
grew
up?
up in Connecticut, like
Uh-huh.
in Norwalk, Connecticut,
Hmm.
so more like suburby, less rural.
Yeah.
I loved it. I was like, I love the country and the tree. Like it was just so beautiful. I hated the winters, but that was what LA was for.
Right. Are you in LA now?
No, I moved to New York City and now I'm back in Connecticut.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Anyways, stop talking about me.
No, I when I listen to your podcast, I'm like, but what about you, Christina? I want to know about you and why you're asking such very intelligent questions. Like, who are
You're
you?
very sweet. You're very sweet.
Just pointing out the truth.
Okay, so you go to Ithaca College, and then from there, what happens?
So I went to Ithaca College and learned all about the cameras. Like I don't know if you had this. Well, you were in TV radio, that's different, but we had 16 millimeter cameras that they were
Hmm.
teaching us how to shoot on, including a World War II era camera that was just so difficult. The Bell and Howell, I mean, that was ancient technology, and you can't even look through the viewfinder. You just kind of have to estimate. But I loved that education because it taught me the preciousness of film, and that affects the way you make your decisions because you only have so much film to shoot, and you better get the f-stops right and the lighting right or else you'll waste this much money. And
Hmm.
I would love to open up a film school that taught physical film just so that students today would understand that method of making choices early on, because I think that's really affected our industry in a big way, but that's a whole other conversation. Um, so back to where I landed after your question, which was I learned all about the cameras and really got into the visuals because I think most people who start in film are like, oh, cinematography. Oh, I'm so into the visuals. And so that was me. And I became the cinematographer on many of my fellow students' films. I loved it. Um, it felt, I was very confident, and I loved composing shots and lighting people and things and using natural light. So I thought I would go into cinematography. It took me away from drawing altogether because suddenly you're in college and you're like, I have to write 1,000 papers and do
Yeah.
these film projects. I have no time for fun. I have no time for drawing. So um, I did not discover Foley at all until I came to LA. And I didn't really think about getting into sound until my junior year of college. And that's because of one professor. You know, one professor can change your life, one person could change your life. And this person did. His name's Pierre Desir, and he has passed away. And I thank him because instead of putting me in the camera crew for his film that he was shooting over the summer, he created a very special class where he wanted to shoot his own movie. He wanted to be Fellini Tarkovsky and make his own film. So he had the brilliant idea of having a crew of students and making it a class for the summer. So I got to stay in Ithaca for the summer, and you had to apply to get in. And so, of course, I applied for the camera department, and he put me in sound. And it's so funny how sound has such a like an underdog, like um just category about it. It's just like, oh, I'm in sound. Oh man, I wanted to be in the camera department. And what I discovered was I loved sound. And I discovered it just by being on location, listening in my headphones to all the little nuancy details that nobody else could hear, and being in my own world, um, and noticing things that not other people would about what whispers over there or somebody itching, and I'm like, oh, I hear that, or or when we were collecting wild sounds around this very dangerous location we were shooting in, which was an abandoned salt mine.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I would go around and just explore the different textures and the rusty gate over here, and oh my gosh, my feet sound interesting walking on this pile of rubble. So I just became more attuned to it by listening through headphones. It's actually a really wonderful way to practice being skilled in sound, is listening, especially through headphones. So that's how I got into sound. Because after that, suddenly everybody, all my fellow students, were hiring me as their sound recordist instead of their cinematographer. And I thought, okay, let's try sound. And I went to LA. I discovered I don't want to work in production. I don't want to get up at 5 and work
Mm-hmm.
my life every day, 14 hours. No. So I got into editorial and loved it, fell in love with it. Sound editorial.
Well, it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting when you spoke about kind of the underdog of sound. I think it's such a cool department because you're essentially your if your work is invisible, that means you did a good job in a sense. Like if people just feel like it's a natural, like it's something they're watching. If some sound pops out that like shouldn't be popping out, that's not a good thing. So it's like a really cool department because you're trying to create something that no one actually notices in certain cases. I think most cases. I don't know if you feel the same way.
I do. I feel the same because I can't dazzle people with my sounds necessarily unless it's the Foley editor and they're like, "Oh, this is so easy to cut. Thank you so much."
Yeah.
Um, but it's not like when people are sitting in the movie theater, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I am so dazzled by the sound." Well, unless they're really aware of it, or
Yeah.
unless it's super unique. Like obviously when Star Wars came out, they're like, "What? I've never heard anything like this before." The score and the sounds that Ben Burt is inventing, they're new inventions. And so that's what I like to say that we do on the Foley stage is we invent thousands of new sounds, unique sounds every single day together as a team. But like you said, it's not about the glory, it's about the magic of the moment of the present, capturing a performance and working together to find the best idea for this moment in film, this one moment, this one gesture, or this one slide across the spaceship, or this one weapon grab sound, a perfect weapon grab sound. Um, and it's so wonderful. It's like finding, I'm sure it's similar to a chef cooking in a kitchen. Like, who knows what goes into the beautiful, savory dishes that we enjoy at restaurants. But in the back room, the chef is like just putting a little bit of dark chocolate into that tomato sauce to make it pop, and
Yeah.
I don't know this as I'm eating it, but as people are watching the movies, same thing. It's a beautiful, magical moment when I can't even I can't talk about the movie I'm working on right now, so I'm like, hmm. Um,
You have so many though you've done, so there's so many to choose from.
well, I'm just like, what can I talk about? Oh, not that. Um, so like if I worked on Thor Ragnarok, for example, and Thor grabs his hammer and picks it up, slide, grab, slide, and it sounds like so like, Thor's hammer. I believe it. If I believe it, I've done my job.
Mm.
So that's what it's about for me.
What is like so you kind of made the analogy with the chef in the kitchen. What does the sound team look like? Like I know you're Foley artist, Foley mixer, like what does that look like and how do you collaborate together?
Okay, so I would be nothing without my Foley mixer. And today we were recording something and I said, "What did you do, Dennis?" And he said, "I just recorded it." Because it sounded amazing. I was like, "You captured it. It's amazing. You captured every little nuance and tone that I was trying to get." It's just cool. So there are, on where I work at Skywalker, there are two Foley artists who work in this room. So the Foley stage, two artists on the Foley stage at Skywalker, and then one Foley mixer behind soundproof glass. Like it looks like this, like a window. It's over there. And Dennis Leonard is my mixer, and he sits at a console and has all these tricks because of his many years of recording live music with the Grateful Dead. I mean, he's super experienced and has an amazing ear, and he's also been a sound supervisor and an editor. So all these skills really help. So together, we receive our to-do list from the Foley editor. And the Foley editor is the person who works as a liaison between us and the sound supervisor. So the sound supervisor is the director of the soundtrack, like the effects, the dialogue, and effects includes backgrounds, Foley, and hard effects. And the dialogue includes dialogue from production and ADR. So the sound supervisor oversees this team of people, and we're only a part of the team of the sound effects side. So there's three of us in here, and then our Foley editor will liaison with the sound supervisor to spot the movie, and together they will decide we need footsteps from here to here. I need a sweetener for the magic effects here. I could really use some tactile texture here to sell the surface. They have those conversations early on so that when our Foley editor spots the movie for us and places markers in the Pro Tools system that is given to Dennis, we know exactly what we need to do from here to here to here. Footsteps for this character, footsteps for this character, and then props, and then some movement passes for their what they're wearing or their capes or anything like that. Um, so as we work every single day, we come in and set up and say, okay, I'm ready for the footsteps for this character on wood. And I will get in front of the microphone, I'll set up the mic and choose a shoe that plays what I want to hear, not necessarily what they're wearing. And I'll say, okay, I'm ready to roll. And then Dennis will say, here we go. And then I'll see a streamer that goes like this across. And at the end of that, I have to go. And that means I walk in sync with the character on the screen. And in that moment, I just let go of everything. And I'm like, perform, 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 and don't think. And then something might be caught that is exactly what we want, but we don't know that until we play it back. So in the moment, it's like, oh, that sounded great. I performed the sounds I wanted to give the microphone. But then Dennis will be like, let's play it back in context with dialogue and music. And if it's like, oh, that low end is being eaten up by the music. The music already has a low end. I need to kind of fit in a different spot, you know. It's like a spectrum that I'm trying to see where the frequency is where I can fit in and make it all sing together. That's the moment really where you know if your Foley is working or not. The playback, the moment of playback.
To that point, I actually I was in LA and I met up with a Foley artist. Her name's Sana Kelly,
Oh
and she
yeah,
has her own like studio
yeah.
out there. And so we went in and like looked at it and
Mm-hmm.
watched her like do footsteps, and it's much harder than like it look. You guys make it look like it's like there's an art to it that you're not just like walking, you're pacing with the image. And so it's like I'm curious from your experience learning, like, was it harder than it looked for you? Or like, what was your learning process as you began to do this more?
Thanks for noting that. And it is a hard skill to learn. It's taken me, I've been doing it for 30 years and I feel like I still don't know anything. I feel like I've gotten to a point where I know what to do. I let my body respond and it's awesome. But the learning process for me was I went into it in a humble way, thinking, oh my gosh, these people have been doing it forever, these veterans who I'm sitting in with, and they're allowing me to sit on their stage and watch them because I got into it by doing it for free on student films. And so I asked the Foley team if I could sit and watch them to understand the process of making, but I never thought, oh yeah, I could do that. I understand any craft takes years to master. I think that came from watching my family who are like blue collar workers, like bricklayers, and my dad's a cable guy who builds things, mechanical engineer. So I had a respect for that and a knowing that it would take me a while. However, when I tried it, when I did the footsteps for this student film I was working on, I had a sound supervisor sit with me to make sure it wasn't terrible. He was my quality control, and he said, "You have a knack for this, like, because you have to have a natural knack or talent for it, or response, or instinct, or whatever you want to call it, um, because it's like an innate thing. I don't know how else to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
So luckily, I had that, and I stuck with it, and went through the period of not knowing and confusion and beating myself up and self doubt and um, still moving forward and working kind of space that I think everybody goes through when they're learning a new skill or craft or art. Um, but footsteps, I think, are the hardest to learn, which you wouldn't think. Like you said, oh, the person's walking in place. I can walk in place, but can you deliver sounds that are really beautiful with every single shoe that you have? I have 50 shoes around me right now. Can I can I play all those beautifully? You know, that takes a lot of years. And can I play them beautifully on glass, wood, metal, dirt? You know, you have to know all these nuances and how to play it. Like I'm sure it's similar to the tactile experience of learning guitar. Like how do you strum a guitar so you get a certain sound and not get the buzz of the neck, like the string against the neck, and oh, I can hold it just right. You know, it's all those little nuancey things that you develop along the way, but it takes years.
I saw when I was researching in an article, you actually said one of your favorite sounds to create is footsteps, especially for Disney and Pixar animated films. And that made me think of Inside Out and the different characters and the emotions. And I was curious going into that film, like, did you, I'm sure you thought about like sadness different than like joy and how they would walk differently. I would love to hear more about that process.
100%. So I worked on Inside Out 2, and I worked with a partner named Heiki, and we decided who would do what. And For some reason, I decided on sadness, anger. Did I do fear? Hold on. Anxiety, like the negative emotions, or I don't know if you want to call them negative. Um, so yes, I definitely thought of what would sadness sound like, what would anxiety sound like. Um, I actually just did a wonderful interactive demonstration for an audience thinking about these things, and what I said to them was, "What does anxiety sound like?"
Mm.
And so, what do like, what do you think of when you think of what does anxiety sound like? Like, what does this sound like? It sounds like electricity to me. It sounds
Mm.
like staccato to me, and just like crazy energy, like quick bursts. And that's the way she was animated. So I chose these shoes that had a percussive element, because if you look at the shoes she's wearing, it's just like uh, not very defined. It's kind of like there's a lot of leeway to interpretation um, in the way it looks. So that's one of the great things about both live action and animation. You just think, what do I want to hear? And so I picked these sneakers that happen to have the rubber that has fallen away from the middle of them. I don't even know how to describe it. Like the sole, here I have a shoe here. Like the sole is like taken away from this part. It just dropped off. So there's a little percussive element, but then there's a round, soft element too. So together, when I performed in these sneakers, it just sounded like anxiety. It was just like tick, 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 but not like ticky annoying, because you want to create, as a Foley artist, beautiful sounds that fit in, even though it's anxiety and it should sound staccato. It has to, in my opinion, it has to sound warm and playable within the context of the soundtrack. Because imagine if you heard that over and over again, you just tune it out. You'd be like, please turn
Right.
that off. So variety is good, um, and a pleasing sound that still conveys that sense of emotion was what I thought about. And then I thought of anger, and anger was different. Anger was kind of darker and more surface area, rubbery, like that kind of thing. This is the funny part of it too. Here's the catch: like, how are they moving? What are your shoes going to sound like when you jump versus when you walk? Like anger, when anger
Mm-hmm.
jumps in the air or just does something really fast. It doesn't sound angry if it's really fast, because there's no time to develop that sound. There's no time to bloom.
Yeah.
So I had to think about all that too. And sometimes I just change the shoe depending on what I want for that moment. So but that's how I characterized the shoes for these people. And sadness to me was, she always had her head down, and I just thought like if I were a hermit in a cabin, and what would I wear? Slippers, just like sadness is kind of schluffy, and just not defined at all. Just kind of heavy and draggy. Yeah, no heel toe. You don't walk on your heels and your toes when you're sad. So that's how I thought about it. And then performing it is a whole other thing, because then it evolves to something else. And then you play it back and it might not be right still. And you might have to choose something else. So it's always evolving and moving. And that's what makes it cool to create these sounds, because it's not like literal at all. Like some people, when they're starting in Foley, they're better at props because they can pick up a pen or they can pick up a notepad. But that's the literal stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
setting down a notepad beautifully is a way, it's a skill. And paper movement is a skill, because the paper is moving too. It's not just your hands that are moving it, but the paper is like this uncontrollable blob. So you have to understand how to play it, especially with the microphone, because it can sound phasey. I mean, there are all these things that you learn. How a microphone, you know, hears things is another way. Did I answer your question? I feel
No,
like I'm
you
going
did
off
that.
on tangents.
No, that was great. Yeah. You said something about, performance being a whole different thing. For you, was there things that prepared you for the performance part of this?
Yeah, for the body movement performance part of Foley, I think what helped me was being a young snowboarder at age 13. I started to snowboard like when it became a thing, when snowboarding was born.
Yeah.
And then I did hurdles and track. I did soccer. So all these things with my feet and my body, like balancing things and like jumping 360s on the snowboard, landing it, just success in that. Um, I think that made me more body aware. And then when I went to LA, I thought, why not take acting classes? Why not take musical theater classes? So I got up on stage and performed. And I had a fantastic teacher who I'm still very dear friends with. Kathy Gabrielle Wallace is her name. And she teaches an adult class at the Culver City School. Like she used to do that, where she would teach anyone who wanted to sing musical theater and write monologues. Um, she would teach them how to just be comfortable in their bodies. It was just an amazing, like therapeutic experience for everybody. And then she would graduate people to the stage. And so you'd walk up on the stage, say a monologue that you wrote, and then you'd sing a song. And she'd be like, okay, stop, stomp your feet. And I'm like, what? Why? And she's like, just stomp your feet. And I'm like, okay, stomp, stomp, stomp. She's like, that's how I want you to feel when you're performing, loose. And I'm like, oh, I get it. So those things really helped shape me too.
Do you
Yeah.
have a favorite sound you've ever created?
I love metal.
Hmm.
Um, hmm, what's a good example? I love creating weapons for the Marvel universe.
Epic.
And it's not just me though. Let me just be straight. Okay, it's the sound effects people who are designing these beautiful magical elements, and then maybe me picking up something off the ground to sweeten it. And I know sweetening was described in your sound designer interview by somebody else. Sweetening meaning layering it with something more beautiful to make it even more complex and cool.
That's a
Um,
great point, though. Like, I
yeah,
would love to hear kind of in your own words, like, how do you distinguish between what's a sound effect and what's Foley? And obviously, it combines in some ways sometimes, but just from your perspective, what does that look like?
it is such an amorphous blob between sound design, Foley, and music because
Hmm.
it's tones, it's rhythms, it's textures. Um, so the technical side of it separates us. And for example, I could do all the design elements for a particular weapon, like let's say vibranium for the Black Panther movie, the spears that the Door Warriors carried with them, these spears, when they pound them on the ground, I created a sound that was like wah, 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 wah. And then the sound design team also created a different element that was like ching that played
Mm.
with it, but they needed that connection and the hit on the ground from Foley because it's tactile. It's a real surface. It's a real person hitting it hard enough so that it interacts with the cement, the metal and the cement. Um, but then I might get really into it and delve into the sound effects category. Like, for example, I can only think of examples of things I'm working on right now, so it's really challenging. Because we create thousands and thousands of sounds every day. So I'm just like, what is fresh in my brain is what we're doing today. But
Yeah.
let me go back to, for example, even just like if Foley were tasked with doing just the bed movement of somebody having a nightmare
Hmm.
and they just want to hear their body moving on the bed. So I'll do the body on the bed. But then they wake up from the dream and it's like there's a big lightning storm, like a thunder thing. Maybe I'll be inspired to say, oh, let's add like a bed frame movement. I see it's wood. So let's do some creaks underneath that. And then when he wakes up, I'll do a big ronk as he leans forward.
Hmm.
So it's just kind of like painting. It's kind of like sculpting. And so we'll be inspired to do things that might otherwise be cut sound effects, or sound effects might, cut in some temporary Foley things, but it just it's best when the organic stuff is saved for the performers, I think. But musically too, I like to do musical cues all the time, and I can tread on the music editors or the music department's toes. I can step on their toes sometimes. People like to think of it as separate, but I feel like we can all work together and create something gorgeous if it was conscious, if the decisions were made early on and it was conscious. Um, so for the movies that I'm working on right now, we're given, like I said, a task list by the Foley editor, and I love everything that I do on this stage to create sounds. But if I get the opportunity to work on an independent film that has no budget, for example, that I want to work on, then I'll just do everything myself. So I'll look at the film, I'll talk with the director, I'll discuss the story, and say to them, is this, am I seeing your story right? Like, is this person feeling this way there? And I kind of discuss the character arc and what the turning points are and what the important emotional moments are. And then I'll spot the Foley accordingly. And ideally, I'll work with the composer and say, hey, let's do just dialogue here. Let's do a little Foley here where this person's really uncomfortable and they're moving around. Oh, this is a beautiful music moment. Let's think about music right here. So, like, we think about even way before the final mix, let's place this here, no music, no Foley, silence, you know, what an idea. Um, so I love just thinking of the whole holistic project with the composer. Ideally, that's how I would like to work. I love working on short films for that reason. It's very meaningful to me, working on independent films for up and coming filmmakers, because we get to work together and they trust that me and the composer will make these correct decisions for them to serve their film and serve their story. So,
That's so cool.
yeah.
I didn't know you worked with independent films as much just because of how big your titles are, but that's really awesome because I especially because it sounds like you work more closely with the director in those cases versus the bigger films, which makes sense. But
Mm-hmm.
that's so awesome.
Yeah, I like both. It's two different things. Yeah.
I want to talk about the original Saw movie. Um, because I mean, that movie became one of the most influential horror films of all time. And I think a lot of that came from like the tension from what we hear. So I was curious, like, what your experience working on that film was like.
Okay. I look back on those days with such uh like nostalgia, because when I worked on Saw, I was working in a room that was the size of a small bathroom. And so I was on Foley stage that was very small, and the prop selection was limited. And I was brand new, meaning I had only been doing it for 5 years. Only been walking Foley for 5 years. And James Wan, the director of Saw, was there. And so that was really awesome. It was a
So cool.
small, yeah, it was a small facility, an independent facility. And what happened during Saw was the sound supervisors gave me a list basically of what they needed me to cover. And that was all the footsteps and the bear trap and, you know, all the evil, awful things in that movie that that I can't recollect right now. But
Yeah, the bear trap I feel like is one of the more well-known kind of elements. So I mean, for that specifically, just curious of like, would you use an actual bear trap for the sound or like how did you go about that specifically?
okay. So even back then, I think that was 2004. Even back then, I didn't think of things literally. I saw the
Hmm.
bear trap and I saw what happened with the woman stuck in the bear trap and how she had to get it off of her. And the struggle with that, her struggle with that needed to be played. And so I thought, okay, metal, heavy, she's locked in, she can't get out. You know, I think about all these things. what does that sound like? And what do I have available to me? So I found this old brake shoe, which had a moving part, and it was made of heavy metal. I don't even know what kind of metal, maybe iron, probably iron. And it moved in, like, it moved just enough to create like a rattle that sounds like it might pop open, but it's not going to.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what I was trying to tell. That's the story I was trying to tell. So I just manipulated that in front of the microphone. And honestly, I have never heard that movie. So if I were to listen to that today, I would probably be so critical of my work and think, oh, I could have done this and I could have done this. But I didn't know back then. I just took one element and made it happen. I mean, I
Well, it
probably would
really
have added.
worked.
Oh, did it? Yay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad that it affected you in such a positive way.
Effective?
It affected you.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite genre to work on? Or is it
Hmm.
really the story or the director or
Oh gosh, it's everything. You're right. I love it all for all different reasons. I love live action for the warmth, um, and challenge of trying to match production, especially in a quiet drama. I just worked on a quiet drama, and I think I can say the name of it. It's called Behemoth. It's coming out in the fall, and I just loved that challenge of trying to match the footsteps I already heard from the production recording, and working around dialogue, supporting dialogue, and being a, like, I call it a background singer to that movie, because Foley's not really featured necessarily. It's a supportive. It plays a
Mhm.
supportive role. Um, I loved working on Toy Story 5 because of all the different details of that. And I probably, since it's still out in theaters, I can't talk about the specifics, but I can generally talk about how it was so challenging to create beautiful sounds of plastic and so many varieties of different kinds
Mhm.
of plastic for that film. Um, and walking animated characters is quite challenging because they move so quickly, and I like to support the dialogue with the footsteps. So I don't want to be on top of a line of dialogue. I don't want to be intrusive to a line of dialogue. I want to support it. Um, and so that challenge is really fun. Um, yeah, I love all of it. I love when the directors come down and see what Foley is. Even like the big budget films, the directors come down, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea." It's really cool.
It's so
It's
cool.
it's really great that they come. Please, film directors, come to the Foley stage and work with us, because we want to do a service to your film and your story, and that's why we're here. And I feel like our performance and our emotion is present as another level of, just, I would say it's presence. Like Foley is presence, because you feel it and you don't necessarily hear it or register that you're hearing it as different from what you're seeing, because everything that we do is associated with the visual that you're looking at, not with me and all these tools around me. So
Yeah.
it's a hidden gem of a emotional component to the film.
I did want to ask just a little bit about Skywalker sound and like working there because it's such an epic place to be. Like what is it about working there but also doing Foley there that keeps you coming back every project? Like what does that feel like to you?
Mm. I love being a part of this community at Skywalker because, first of all, I drove in this morning, and as I turned into the driveway where the Foley stage is, there were 6 deer eating, and just they turned and looked at me and said, "Good morning." Just kidding, they did not. um and they're beautiful redwood trees, and it's exquisite. It's just quiet, and we can go to lunch and be silent and listen to the breeze or the trees creaking and be inspired by that space, and it gives us a respite from all the sounds we're creating. So there's the environment, and then there's the people, and the people are all truly nice and collaborative and excited, and I love them. I love all of them. They're like my family. I just want to like start to cry thinking about it because I've been here 10 years and and they've welcomed me so warmly, and just whenever we meet to discuss an upcoming film, it feels like, okay, team, here's what we're doing, and we're on the ball. We're on the ball. We understand what our jobs are. Let's do this. I trust you. Do your thing, and we'll come back and commiserate. And maybe a sound supervisor will call down and say, hey, I'm looking for some elements for something. Do you have? And I'm like, oh, yes, I have Ben Burt's Thunder Sheet hanging on my stage. I can make the sound of a whale. Sure, I can do that for you. You know, it's just endless possibility and collaboration and ideas that are thrown from person to person. Inventiveness. I mean, it all started here with Ben and has grown in this beautiful, like, outward trajectory with so many new minds and new ways of seeing. But the core of it is like Ben and then Gary Rydstrom and these people who have set the standard, which is Skywalker sound, that we try to always achieve. And it makes me work harder. I've always been a hard worker, but I don't move on until I'm happy or my mixer's happy and I'm overruled. Like if I'm obsessing about something, I'm like, but wait. He's like, it's great. Let's move on. I'm like, I trust you. So it's a trust and an uplifting of other people, and that's very rare. It's rare to have a company that has that culture and creativity in the same place. It's it's the best. These are the best years of my life so
It
far.
sounds magical and
Yeah.
creative and collaborative, like the
Hmm.
best place to work.
And the
Oh,
lights just turned off. Ooh. Ooh, I'm just gonna leave it like that. It's the stage lights are on a timer, so that's
well,
what
it just means
happens.
that we need to go into the final five. I think that was our cue. We're wrapping up.
Yeah, the
Um,
Skywalker ghost is telling us.
all right. So the final five. The first one is, so you work as long as you want to on all the films you want to work on, but this is your last film you're working on. What would you do differently, or what would you cherish more of?
Oh my gosh. I was just talking to my mixer Dennis about this, and I said, I because of my job, I live in the present so much more because that's what life is about and that's what Foley is about. We're creating and capturing a momentary performance an emotion. And so savor that fully. And I need to be present in my body, in the environment, listening attentively to what I'm doing at all times when I'm doing my job. So if it was my last project, gee, what would I do differently? Nothing. I would just bring it. I might do a ton of layers for each sound and be like, oh, let's add this. And I just, I don't know, I would not be able to let go. I think last project that for me is going to be when I'm probably really old because it's a very physical job that requires agility and like I have to be in shape. It's a special skill that I have honed for 25, 30 years and I value that, and I think filmmakers when they see what we can do here, they are blown away and value it as well. And there will always be filmmakers that want that organic, unique, handmade, tactile quality in their film. So I look forward to when I'm 70 and working in my barn in the middle of nowhere with my, I don't know, maybe I'll hire my husband as my mixer and we'll be working on small independent films of up and coming filmmakers who just feel passionate about their projects. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But
I love that.
yeah, I plan on doing this for a long time.
What is the best advice you've ever received about your craft?
So the best advice I've ever received in life applies to my craft. And that was from my husband's mentor, who told him there will be no Jeffrey Roden like you ever again. So you better bring it. And so, like, there will be no Shelley Roden in the whole world ever again. So if I were to perform a footstep cue and then my partner were to perform a footstep cue, it would be quite different. There's a uniqueness in every individual's performance or the way they make something with their hands or the way they invent stories with their minds. So no one will ever do it like you do it. So bring it. Like, be you fully and completely in this world.
What's the worst advice you've ever received?
The worst advice that I have ever been given is, if you go union, you'll never work again.
Oh my God.
So I'm in the union and I've been continuing to work for 30 years and it's going just fine.
Yeah, sounds like the worst advice.
Maybe it was that person's experience, so I forgive them, and that's cool.
Yeah.
It was not my experience.
What is something you used to believe about Foley or even just making films as a whole, that you've changed your perspective on now that you've worked for 25, 30 years?
I now have a new appreciation for film editorial, because if I am walking a character and the shot is of somebody with the camera here, and then they're walking this way, and then suddenly the 180-degree rule is broken and they switch sides and they come from a different way from the other side of the frame, and you're like, whoa. I appreciate seasoned directors who know what they're doing, and I appreciate editorial who smooths these things out and makes things continuous and flow. Like, if there's a footstep on A side that's about to be planted and then it's planted on the B side, thank you. Because if it's a double step and it's just like A side, bam, B side, bam, and then easy, like, then the rhythm's like bum bum but dun 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 dun. So
Yep.
I really appreciate you, picture editors. You rock.
Editors are saviors to
Yeah.
all people in film.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. If you could pick any role in the credits to be remembered for long after you're gone, what would it be?
So what do I want to be known for? What do I want on my
Yeah, what do we want to
epitaph?
be remembered for? Yeah.
Actually, I have a very good friend, and she has made a sticker that represents what we'd like to be known as, and it's BAYK, bad blank yet kind.
I
Fill
love
in the
that.
blank.
That's going to be
And
your credit.
okay. There we
Well,
go.
thank you so much. I know we're a little over time, but I really appreciate it. Your job is so cool, and I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you so much. It was awesome talking to you, Christina. I'd like to talk to you all day long.
I know. I feel like I could have talked for like 3 more hours.
Yeah.
We'll have to do another one.
All right. Sounds good.